According to AOC, in August 2019, people have no choice but to violently riot. Seems like some people took her advice. We're going to talk a little bit about escalation and the tensions and everything that have been going on the past few days. So hopefully all of you are doing well. Thanks for tuning in. Let's check out a little video here when she was pressed whether she would condemn terrorist Antifa. This was right after the attack on the Tacoma Ice Center. Let's hear what she has to say.
Will you condemn Antifa for the attack in Washington? It's easy to condemn a terrorist attack. Will you be condemning Antifa? They firebombed an American facility. Will you condemn them? Will you be condemning them? Do you feel like you have some responsibility in the attack with your rhetoric about concentration camps? Are you responsible? Do you feel ashamed?
Now, that being said, perhaps a statement that she did make later on cleared everything up. Perhaps she did come out and denounce Antifa, and then later on, perhaps she did denounce BLM. If she did, go ahead and shoot me those links. I'd love to see where she denounced terrorist organizations, specifically Antifa in this case, because she did say she was going to make a statement. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just don't have all of the information. But escalation, as I said, this is what we're talking about here today. A couple days ago, Ted Cruz called for calm and everything. A little tit for tat went down. Ted Cruz called her a liar. She said he isn't going anywhere. Basically, when her and her socialist buddies tried to raise taxes, Green New Deal, yada, 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 he will fight and stand with the people. Now, these were sent before the breach. I guess they're saying the breach was at 1:30 on the 7th. So the back and forth here, basically after Ted Cruz tried to come out and calm tensions, tried to ask for cooler heads to prevail. You can see the tweets here on the screen. She says resign. So again, the topic for today is escalation. This was during the temporary Trump ban. As you know by now, Twitter moved to permanently suspend him, but Trump ban sees Twitter shares fall by 1.8% because the president's followers account for half of the site's daily users, while Facebook shares rise despite indefinite suspension. Twitter suspension is permanent. With that half of interaction they're talking about with his followers, it'll be interesting to see where things go. Obviously, more conservative types are going to look to shift to alt tech. And if you've seen my videos in the past, I've called Trump out for this. I've called him an idiot because of this. I said, how long, this is the analogy I used, how long will you serve your master? At the point when they started to censor his tweets in any kind of way. Actually, let me backtrack that a little bit more and say this. When they started censoring voices on his side of the aisle, and he continued to remain with the platform, then that's when he served his master. And you guys get what I'm saying. You're adult enough to know what I mean. It's like if in athletics or in entertainment, for instance, if a particular athlete, celebrity, whomever doesn't share your point of view and they're out there and vocal about it, but yet you're still putting money in their pocket, you're still going to concerts, going to sporting events, buying their jerseys, buying their merch. How long are you going to continue to serve your master? Why would you continue to let somebody abuse you, is the point. Now, I get it. Twitter is the largest platform for that. But you're not telling me that if he would have just shifted to Parler a year ago, that things could have been drastically different. And perhaps it could have swayed the election. Who knows? When you have sites that are censoring you, and granted things were ramped up over the past couple months leading up to the election, but when you have sites that are censoring you and you continue to help them make money, it doesn't make any sense to me, and that's why I called him an idiot. And like I said, you guys get that, right? I don't care for what I see in terms of the celebrity culture, athletes, stuff like that. So why would I help put money in their pocket? That's a choice I make for myself. You all make your own choice. I'm not going to sit there and cry about it. Like some channels, they're out there. It cracks me up because you have a lot of these channels out there crying and complaining about how bad athletes and sports are. But yet they're a sports channel. They're always talking about sports. I don't get it. It just cracks me up. If you don't like something, you ignore the thing, right? It just makes sense to me. So Twitter with the temporary ban at this time. This was on the night of the 7th. Graham begs Joe Biden to order Nancy Pelosi not to impeach Trump again. Warning, it will destroy the country even further. They don't get it. They've already got the articles out there. They're prepared to go ahead with those next week. We'll see if they do that. We'll see if there's any kind of intervention that happens. But, I think on his way out, if he does last until the 20th, I think, he maybe wouldn't mind one more go of it with Pelosi and everybody else on the Democratic side. Probably lose this time, probably have people from the Senate jumping ship. Maybe he wouldn't want this to happen, but to set some kind of record, to be the first 2-time to be impeached, that'd be something. I do think it would kind of set some kind of precedent if, say in the midterms in 2022, if the Republicans were able to flip a couple seats, grab the Senate back, and then flip a few more seats and grab the House back, that potentially Biden, if he's still alive by then or still coherent, that you could be looking at a situation where they look for retribution. But I would say this, perhaps cooler heads prevail, that perhaps the majority of Republican politicians that are wimps go back to being the wimps they are, and they decide not to pursue anything. Oh no, we're the party of niceness and trying to get along and trying to compromise, and you see where that's gotten you. The thing they don't understand, and I think a lot of you out there get, regardless of what side they're on, is that the left doesn't play that way. There's rules that generally people go by, and they create their own rules, or they don't care about the rules. So while some Republicans may think that they're, being fine and upstanding and everything like that, it just doesn't work that way for certain individuals on the left. And that's why the divide is happening and it's spreading. You have two drastically different ideologies at work here. Not saying that Republicans play fair all the time, but Democrats do pretty much never. That kind of trickles down into the media, into the culture and everything like that, and obviously to us, to where the divide keeps growing. And Republicans would be wise to recognize that. Rush Limbaugh deactivates his Twitter after Trump, Sidney Powell, and Mike Flynn are banned, and conservatives threatened to flee the site in protest. Why would you threaten? Again, getting back to what Trump said. Why would you continue to serve somebody who abuses you repeatedly? Why would you put money in their pocket? Take it over to Parler, somewhere else, right? I want him out, Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski threatens to quit the Republican Party, giving the Democrats a clear Senate majority unless President Trump resigns. I don't know what she's thinking here. I don't know if she's looking to grandstand or make a name for herself, but she is up for re-election in 2022, so I would call her bluff if I were people in the GOP. Harris is the tie-breaking vote anyway. A lot of the statements coming out from Manchin, he seems to be against what happened big time, so that's probably going to put him in a place where he's not going to be willing to vote with the GOP on things. For a while, they say he's kind of one of those individuals that leans either way. If she really thinks that she is doing something here, taking a stand, I would hope they would call her out on this. I would love to see her flip Democrat and then see the Republicans run against her in 2022. In Alaska, very red state. We'll see how that goes. Maybe she flips Democrat, and then leading up to 2022, she's, no, I didn't mean it. Like once the heat dies down a little bit on this, they need to call her bluff. Joe Biden called for unity just a little bit ago. He's out here talking trash about Trump, saying that he welcomes Pence to his inauguration. This was after Trump said he's not going to go. Don't dare call me a NZ. Clenched fist Senator Josh Hawley lashes out after Biden compares him and Ted Cruz to Goebbels, spreading the big lie. Again, Joe Biden being the man of high character that he is, I alluded to this the past couple of days. It's a situation where, with everything that happened, you have individuals banging the drum as loud as they can, just jumping around, going ape shit, just going ape shit, willing to act like everything we saw in 2020, my lying eyes, right? That everything I saw in 2020, that was just social justice. Well, this is social justice too, but in a different kind of way, because my feeling and what I was talking about yesterday was not identifying with either party, because I realize what I said, they're the same devil. That these individuals, these elected officials, have been selling the U.S. out for so long that I find it hard for me to get behind any of them. If there's any individual out there that's actually an honest politician that puts America's needs first, then that's an individual I can get behind. The reality is most of these individuals are beholden to corporations, beholden to other nations. They're not beholden to us. And I've mentioned that before about the omnibus. Look at all the money that went out of the country. That's your taxpayer money. How could you sit here and act like these are high character individuals when they're sending your tax dollars out of the country? I needed nothing more than to see those kind of things. And we know it. We know all this money that gets sent out of the country for our friends and our allies, right? But that's our money. So why would anybody out there stand behind any of these individuals that are responsible for this? So Biden can say all of this stuff he wants. He can act like he wants unity. When you come out and say stuff like this, and you've been saying this stuff for 9-10 months, how are people supposed to react? I think people see that the game is rigged, that all politicians are generally against the American people. But the great thing that's been going on for so long, media creates this, social media, obviously politicians as well, is division. And that's what I alluded to earlier in the video. If you can get the attention off of them and their corrupt and crooked ways, then you just have us out here fighting over the scraps. Tribalism, as they say, right? And as I talked about before, when you have a sitting congressman who they didn't even investigate, no, never happened, that he, leading up to him getting into Congress, was out there banging, allegedly, a Chinese spy. What can you do? I mean, what are you going to say? You know that the game is rigged when an individual like that won't even get investigated. And if you want to say, oh, well, what aboutism? Well, that's fine. You can point to other examples. You can leave them in the comments for the GOP side as well. You can point to things on both sides, but it just proves the point that the division that's been created is so strong that they've got you and I out here fighting each other while they're over there laughing their asses off, getting paid, collecting contributions, living that wealthy lifestyle that they are. So politics. Never want to pass up an opportunity to make it all about politics. Biden tells Senate Republicans to end obstruction and confirm his top cabinet picks immediately, and says he'd have loved Bernie Sanders to be Labor Secretary, but needs him in the Senate. Further escalation, Tucker Carlson reveals that CNN is trying to force Fox News off the air by pressuring cable carriers to drop it because they say the network is irresponsible and dangerous for failing to call MAGA mob an insurrection. It's a typical thing. You see it on YouTube all the time. You see it on other platforms, more so YouTube and Facebook, Twitter, where certain individuals are forced off the platform. It's interesting, though, and it's funny because you have individuals out here calling for censorship. You have grown adults born in the freest country that there is, allegedly, calling for censorship for people they don't agree with. And it just shows you how pussified people have become when they can't take criticism from the other side. I get criticism in the comments often. I love it. It's great. I love it. But you have individuals out there who can't. Everything is the worst thing in the world if somebody doesn't agree with them. And it just escalates into conservative social media platform Parler is suspended by Google for posts inciting violence, and Apple gives it 24 hours to improve moderation, as head of policy says it's being singled out and warns the business is on the brink. Now, this is from the App Store as far as I know, but it shows you with big tech kicking President Trump off, and this, that you can't tell me that this isn't some form of monopoly, that they can control what you say, where you say it. And people think, oh, well, they're just kicking it like Limbaugh, right? Or like I was talking about earlier in the video, if Trump would have went to Parler, that's why I mentioned that specifically. But you think, okay, well, they don't want me here, but maybe I can go there. It just shows you the amount of control they have. And if you're somebody who's out there thinking, oh, well, the courts are going to take care of me. The courts will make sure this doesn't happen. Freedom of speech. Have you not learned a lesson in 2020? You've seen freedom of speech shut down across a lot of states. Freedom to peaceably assemble, religious freedoms. You've seen states shut those down, and they put that on the people to file the lawsuit. Now, sure, we see cases where people are winning in court, Michigan, New York, California, but they're out here first putting the onus on the people to prove what's in the Constitution. They know what's in the Constitution, and they're willingly saying, well, F that. You have to prove to me what's in the Constitution, and we already know what it says. We'll just read the quick bullet points on this. Google on Friday suspend Parler, its app store citing posts inciting violence. Apple also issued the social networking app with a 24-hour warning to clean up its act in moderating posts before also being removed from its app store. The app saw a major spike in traffic after the threats from the last two tech giants left people rushing to download Parler before it's suspended. Twitter also permanently banned President Donald Trump's Twitter account on Friday, as you know. Parler's chief policy officer, Amy Peitkoff, claimed it is being targeted as a conservative platform that refuses to fact-check its users. She said that its users did not want to live in the world of Orwell's 1984, yet she admitted that the company would be hit hard by any suspension. So it's what I talked about earlier. It's escalation. You have things where people are talking about banking. You have things where they're talking about putting people who flew into Washington, D.C., Trump supporters, on permanent no-fly lists. It's certainly getting interesting out there, and you have one side who sees an opportunity here to go for blood, and they're looking to seize power in any way they can. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's why there's a responsibility out there to push back. And obviously, the pushback can only come in so much because you have individuals out there, companies now, that have such power that they can control, as I just said earlier, what you say, when you say it, where you say it. And if you think you can go somewhere else and still have that conversation and still have your freedom of speech, constitution-wise, there'll always be those people that love censorship, that they love to get bent over, they love to get told what to do by the government, that they'll be willing to argue, well, free speech, well, they're a business, they can do what they want. Well, sure, yeah, that's fine, they can do what they want. But then here you go. It just shows you how deep the tentacles are and how much power that they really wield, to where even if you try to go somewhere else, they can just follow you. And people can be out there, activists they call them, trying to get you fired, trying to hunt you down wherever you are if they don't agree with your political ideology. So it's going to be, I don't want to say interesting, but it's going to be strange in 2021. If you thought that 2020 was something, that now the people on the left that are emboldened by this, they're going to look to gain as much ground as they can, and we'll see if they overstep, if they push it too far to where they get some pushback in the midterms in 2022. That's all I've got right now. There's just so much out there. So many things are developing. So I have a feeling I'm going to be talking about this for days and days. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Be well if you make videos of your own. You should be on alt tech already like I am. Be well.